Ladies and gentlemen, I'm calling an audible here. Welcome to a interesting episode of Inside the Helmet. My name is Michael. I am your host. And how do you like the new format? I recently went and got a webcam for my computer. And so from here on out, we are going to be recording, uploading, and completely managing Inside the Helmet from a computer rather than my phone, which is good because I haven't been able to upload episodes consistently with my phone recently. The app that I use called Riverside to record these episodes has decided that it doesn't really want to let me access my recordings and save them and upload them. So, here we are. I sincerely hope that this actually works. But without further ado, it is playoff time here in. Sorry about the shake. Um, it is playoff time here in both the NFL and college football. The college football national championship is on Monday, the 19th. And as I record this, it is halftime of the Seahawks 49ers divisional round game. Earlier today, the Denver Broncos did take down the Buffalo Bills, and I would like to get into a little bit of commentary into these playoffs and go over my predictions, the predictions that I have made in previous episodes that y'all haven't gotten to see yet, or I guess we'll never see because Riverside on my phone is just like, no, you don't get to access this stuff. So, again, I'm sorry about that, but hopefully from here on out, we will be spared any of those issues. Um, Without further ado, let's get into first a recap. I want to get into what happened in college because there are fewer games to talk about. Going into the college football playoff, if you remember, about a month ago, at the start of the college football playoff, my dad and I talked about it before any of the games had been played, and we kind of predicted that one of the kind of blue blood schools, namely Ohio State or Georgia, would end up coming out on top, kind of our logical picks, but with our heart. We both agreed that we wanted Indiana to finish off their Cinderella story and win the national championship. Well, lo and behold, both Georgia and Ohio State end up losing in their very first outing in this playoff. Georgia falling to Ole Miss 39-34, and Ohio State falling to Miami 24-10. Meanwhile, Indiana has laid waste to both Alabama and Oregon. And now our national championship is set at Indiana versus Miami. I did do predictions leading into the semifinal games. I predicted Indiana would beat Oregon, but I predicted Ole Miss would beat Miami. So I got that one wrong. This was made a few weeks ago before those games. But for the national championship, I do predict Indiana to beat Miami. It's just simple. They've looked so invincible all year, and it's at the point where it just looks like destiny. Miami, in a way, has their own sort of team of destiny dynamic, with them kind of being the underdogs and kind of not really being the team that's expected to win any of their playoff games so far. I mean, they were the 10 seed, for crying out loud. They were the last team to get in, other than the group of 5 teams, which are guaranteed the final 2 spots. So, I'm sure they're riding high and believing in all the hopium, but it's all going to come to a head in Miami, in their own home stadium, where the Hoosiers are going to take it all. Now moving on to the playoffs in the NFL, rather, because that's where my more specific expertise and, to be blunt, passion lies. I care more about the NFL than college. I'm one of those guys, I know. And I want to start by saying, believe it or not, I went a perfect 6 for 6 in the wild card round. I predicted the Texans to beat the Steelers, the Bills would beat the Jaguars, the Patriots would beat the Chargers, Rams over the Panthers, 49ers over the Eagles, and Bears over the Packers. I said it earlier this week. I'm recording this right here on a Saturday. I did record an episode on Wednesday, but like I said, haven't been able to upload it. God help us all. But I said it then that my long shot prediction from 2 weeks or a week and a half ago now was the 49ers to beat the Eagles. And I know I'm a Cowboys fan and all that, so it's hard to avoid having bias for the Cowboys and against teams like the Eagles that the Cowboys naturally hate. But I did explain it pretty well, that the Eagles have kind of stumbled to where they were this season. They didn't look very threatening. They almost kind of got the 3 seed by accident, just by other teams around them failing. You know, the Buccaneers, after their strong start to the season, very well could have and should have at least been the 3 seed. They end up slipping and stumbling all their way out of the playoffs, and the Panthers rise from out of nowhere to squeak into the 4 seed just above them. And so the Eagles were kind of in last of the real contending division winners in the NFC anyway. So I wasn't very high on the Eagles, and I thought that was just a game they could lose, and they did. So you're going to have to believe me that I got that right. Then, in that episode, I went on to predict that the Bills would beat the Broncos, the Patriots would beat the Texans, the 49ers would beat the Seahawks, and the Rams would beat the Bears. Then the Bills would come out of the AFC to meet the Seahawks, to meet the Rams, in the Super Bowl. I'm forgetting what I predicted. And that the Rams would win the Super Bowl. And already, as of today, we have an error in those predictions. Finally, I have made an NFL playoff prediction wrong. Because the Broncos, frankly, got lucky. I, for one, do not agree with the call, that deep pass to, I think it was Brandon Cooks, late in the game that was ruled an interception. How I saw it was he caught the ball, went down to the ground with the defender over him. They both went down to the ground with almost equal possession of the ball. But when they went down to the ground, it should have been ruled dead, and the tie always goes to the receiver. What instead happened was they ruled that because the Broncos defender came up with the ball, that, he must have had more possession when they went down, which I don't believe to be the case. And so, it was ruled an interception. The Bills committed 5 turnovers. Of course, it's very hard to win a game when you commit 5 turnovers. Josh Allen committed 4 of them. And so, did the Bills deserve to win the game? No. But I don't think the Broncos did either. The Bills gave them every single opportunity they possibly could, seemingly, to win that game, and it went to overtime. It went late into overtime. So, I think the Bills are overwhelmingly the better team than the Broncos. But it's kind of like what I talked about. Well, it's hard for me to say that because y'all don't see what I talked about, but I did talk about this, that the Broncos are kind of the Eagles of the AFC. Very good defense, no doubt about that. But their offense is extremely questionable, and their quarterback, both Jalen Hurts and Bo Nix, kind of have very extreme opinions about them. Like, people don't just look at Jalen Hurts and say, I don't really care. They're either really big, really high on him, or they're really low on him. And I feel like a lot of people are the same way with Bo Nix. Maybe not quite to the same extent because he's younger and newer. Well, younger. He's an old man for his level of experience in the NFL. But my point is that there are a lot of comparisons, and because of that, I don't find the Broncos particularly intimidating. And then on top of all of this, Bo Nix is now out for the year. He is going to have season-ending ankle surgery because of, I believe it was a broken ankle outright that he suffered on the second to last play of the game, from what I read. And so they're going into the AFC Championship with Jarrett Stidham, if I read that correctly, as their quarterback. So I'm not liking Denver's chances. I already didn't like their chances. I thought they were one of the worst 1 seeds ever. Sure, they went 13-4 or whatever they went, but they won. We talked about this in an earlier episode. They won a plethora of 1-score games, 3-point or less games in a row to bring them to that point. So they are not intimidating at all. People, they even flash a graphic on the screen late in that Broncos-Bills game that the Broncos are 11-2 this season in 1-score games, I think it was. And that's tied for the most all-time with last season's Chiefs and then the Vikings from 2022. And people ragged on the Chiefs all last year about how, they get so lucky, they get bailed out, they are winning so many close games where they play like crap, but they get bailed out at the end. That's how the Broncos are. I said it earlier in the week that the Broncos are not the type of team. I want you to imagine a team going out there and just absolutely blowing out the other team, winning like 50-10. Do the Denver Broncos, with their offense, really seem like the team that could do that? No. Now, do the Bills? I think so. So that was kind of my logic going into that game. Of course, I did get it wrong. I do think the Bills are the better team, though. It's kind of like that Brett Favre. One play he'll make the most unbelievable throw you've ever seen. Oh my God, how did he do that? And then the next he'll throw it right into Tracy Porter's arms and blow a chance at the Super Bowl. So you take the really high highs with the really low lows. But anyway, so that game is over. The Broncos are in the AFC Championship, And seeing as there is another game going on, I want to talk about how I did predict that the Seahawks would beat the 49ers, and as of right now, it's 24-6 with about 8 minutes left in the third quarter, unless I refresh this and maybe it's something else. Nope, still 24-6, 8 minutes in the third. Okay, whatever. Anyway, but I predicted the Seahawks would win, so we don't really need to... 27-6. Oh, cool. Anyway, let's move on to the games that happen tomorrow. The Patriots and Texans. The Texans, of course, are on like a 10-game win streak or something. And what I said on Wednesday was that if you look at any really long win streak, any team that just really gets hot, even an individual, I want you to think of the 2007 Patriots, who, of course, went 18-0 all the way through the regular season and playoffs until they had one bad day. It doesn't matter how good they were at their best, they have one bad day, and they had that bad day at a really bad time. They had it in the Super Bowl, and they lost. Or, what was my other example? Well, here's another one. Max Verstappen, of course, I'm a big fan of his. We got several hats on the wall over there of his. And in 2023, he won 19 races out of 22 total in a season. By far the most ever ridiculous. Probably never going to see that ever again. And 10 of those races he won in a row. Then came Singapore. He had a bad day, didn't qualify well, and it was too far back on a narrow street circuit to make it up in the race, and he ended up coming 5th. He climbed from 11th to 5th or something like that in the race and didn't win, breaking his win streak. And then he went on to win the remaining races in the year, and then the first 2 of the next year. So he won another 9 races in a row after his streak broke. So if it hadn't been for Singapore, if he had won Singapore, we'd be looking at, instead of a 10-race win streak being the record, it would be 20. But it's not. It's that drastic of a difference because he had one bad day. So I say all of this to say that while, yes, the Texans have looked absolutely incredible as of late, for the past 3 or 4 months, whatever, they've looked insane to be able to rise all the way to the 5 seed. Just narrowly missing out on winning their division because the Jags got a better start. And it's in my heart and it's in my mind. You know, I'm a Texas boy. I love Texas. I love my Cowboys, but I can root for the Texans. I have it in me. But I feel like their day is going to come where they just have a bad day. And it is a lot easier to have a bad day against a good team. And the Patriots, despite their maybe weak schedule, the Patriots are a very good team. And I feel like the Texans can't keep this up forever. So I feel like the Patriots are going to win for that. Maybe call it psychology. Or whatever you want to call it, pattern recognition. Take away everything that's actually going to happen on the field. I think just psychologically, the Texans are going to lose. Because they're riding in on this massive win streak. So with every win on a win streak, the pressure grows and grows. How long can they keep this up? I don't think they can keep it up anymore. As for the Bears and the Rams, I've been critical of the Chicago Bears in the past. I haven't really believed in them. I can't believe they're the 2 seed. We want to talk about the Broncos being the beneficiary of a lot of close games. The Bears are right up there with them in terms of winning a lot of close games. And yeah, they came back against the Packers, sure. But they narrowly escaped from the Packers with a win. They had to have this monstrous comeback in order to do so. And I said it on Wednesday. I keep going back to Wednesday. It was a really good episode. I wish y'all could have seen it. But I said that the Bears didn't win that game. They certainly didn't win it by being the better team. The Packers lost it. The Packers lost that game more than the Bears won it. They choked it, frankly. And if that can happen to the Bears, they can get down against a team like the Packers and have to claw their way out. You want to talk about the monstrous comeback. I want to talk about the fact that they were in that situation to begin with. We said this leading up to the Texas versus Texas A&M game in college football after Texas A&M had gone down big against whoever it was, Mississippi State, whoever the heck it was, that they got really down against. They had this monstrous comeback coming back from 34-3 or whatever. They came back and won. And I said, okay, yeah, for as impressive as the comeback is, it's also equally as concerning that they were in that position to have to come back in the first place. And sure, they pulled it off against a weaker opponent, but if they are able to get down against the weak opponent, then they're going to get down and stay down against the better opponent. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen here against the Rams. I think the Rams are a much more well put together team. I think they're the best team in the NFL. Most solid, most complete, well put together. They could have been the 1 seed very easily, had a couple other things gone their way. I don't want to sit here and go on about if this and if that, but it's just the truth that the Rams are an incredible football team. They could very easily be the 1 seed if it weren't for 1 or 2 other things, and so I think they're wildly better than the Bears and certainly better than the Packers. So I think that, especially if the Rams are able to get off to a hot start, that they're going to be able to keep their foot down on the Bears' neck and choke the life out of them and advance to the NFC Championship against their division rival Seahawks or 49ers if they can come back, but I don't think that's going to happen. And then I already said that I think the Rams will come out of the NFC Championship. That is still on, at least for the time being, unless the 49ers can prove me wrong and make me rethink things. But that hasn't been proven to need to change my thinking at all. But I did say the Bills would come out of the AFC, and now clearly I have to do some reevaluating. I want to say 2 things. Well, I want to say one thing, now I want to split it off into 2 things. The Broncos are not going to the Super Bowl. They won today because the Bills shot themselves in the foot over and over and over and over and over again. Over and over and over. That is 5. They had 5 turnovers. And now, especially with their starting quarterback out, there's no chance. Their offense is dead. Plain and simple. Their offense is going to look horrible. Their defense will be very good, but their offense will be absolutely atrocious to see. You could probably put the University of Indiana's offense out there instead of the Denver Broncos, and you might get better results next Sunday or whenever the game is. So, I believe that the winner of this Patriots-Texans game will go on to the Super Bowl to lose against the Rams. I do believe the Patriots are going to win that game, and then they will absolutely handle the Broncos. But the Texans, I think I want to actually walk back what I just said. I still don't think the Texans will make it past the Patriots. But if they do, then I think they are the team of destiny. I think this is going to be a very symbolic game for the Texans that will either mark their season as one that looked very promising. No, it looked absolutely hopeless from the start. Then they had this monster resurgence, made it all the way to the divisional round, but then the clock struck 12 and they turned back into a pumpkin. Either that will happen when they lose to New England, or if they are able to get past the Patriots, they're going to go on to win the Super Bowl. I'm marking it right now. They will go on to win the Super Bowl if they can get past the Patriots. That will be the final hurdle. Because if they can get past them, they can surely get past the Broncos. And then, the Rams will still be a very, very formidable opponent, or the Seahawks, whoever they end up meeting. But I think at that point, they just will be the team of destiny. Their defense is genuinely all-time great levels as of recently. They have the best defense, maybe of the decade so far. Maybe of the last 15 years. I don't know. That's getting back into Legion of Boom eras and 2015 Broncos. So that might be a bit extreme to say. But if they're able to show that they can put it all together, because the Steelers were not a real serious opponent. The 4 seed is always kind of a cakewalk opponent to play against. I know the Rams had a close game against the Panthers in the wild card round, but still, typically the 4 seed, that's your weakest divisional winner. Typically, the 5 seed is a much better team than the 4 seed. It's just how it works. And the Texans exemplified that against the Steelers, where they absolutely manhandled them. Sent Mike Tomlin into maybe retirement, sent Aaron Rodgers into probable retirement, or at least leaving the Steelers. So, this is their final exam of sorts. For all of my students in high school who are in AP courses, if you know what that is, typically I believe how it was, because I took a couple back in my day in high school. When you after you take the AP test, which is kind of like the final, it's before finals actually are. And so after you take the AP test, which like counts for college credit or whatever, you still have class because school's not over yet. The year's not over. But you basically just like watch movies or do nothing. I feel like strangely the Patriots are their AP exam, and then after that they're just watching movies. They can get past the Broncos, and at that point they might as well just win the Super Bowl. You know, I think God is going to be watching this Patriots-Texans game very closely to show us if this team is really going to go the distance. But what do I know? I'm just a guy who plays quarterback and talks about football sometimes. My hat's been crooked this whole time. I haven't been looking at the recording because I've had my ESPN website pulled up here. Why didn't you tell me my hat was crooked? No, I'm kidding. Without any further rambling on my part, I apologize for the lack of any consistency with the show lately. Been trying to obviously sort out stuff with this idiot. But hopefully I've got it figured out. I'm not even using Riverside for this. I might go back to it or another similar program, especially when I get my dad on here, because Riverside is a dedicated app that you can record with other people in the session as well. Right here I'm just using a typical recording software that allows me to just record myself. So anyway, that's technical stuff. You don't need to worry about that. I'll figure it out. But without further ado, thank you for tuning into this little episode. Again, I apologize for the lack of uploads, but I'm getting back on being good and getting stuff figured out. So hopefully I will see you guys next time, next Wednesday. And hopefully I'm right about the other 3 divisional games. And we'll see you from there. Oh, by the time I see you guys next, hopefully Indiana will be our college football national champions. But until next time, thank you for tuning in.